Anyway, I just want you to notice that we have a brochure for Sister Cities on the table there, and if you're interested in finding out a little bit more about our 8 sister cities and a little bit about what we do to promote citizen diplomacy throughout the globe, please feel free to pick one up, and or else either get in touch with us, check our blog, check our website, and we had a video that was running a little earlier that was talking about sister cities. It's not on now because we're going to put the focus on Dave. But after his talk, then we can put it back on if anybody is interested in sitting and watching while you still have time to do so. The library doesn't close till 8 o'clock, I understand. And please help yourself to refreshments, and we want you to have a very enjoyable evening. So I'd like to introduce Dave Gordon. He's an artist, he's a sculptor and a photographer, and he's passionate about this particular project, and Sister Cities is sponsoring him and hoping that he'll be able to travel with this exhibit to our various sister cities. So with no further ado, I introduce you to Dave Gordon.
Welcome, thanks for coming. It's really nice to see so many people here. We never know how many people are going to show up every time I do this. I've been doing this for the past 15 years. Each year I do it in a different location, in a different city. The only real thing that holds it together is I always try and put it in venues that can get a non-traditional art audience and that are also free to the general public so that people can see the show. While I'm a professional artist and I like to make money with my art, in this particular case, I make sure I'm not making any money because it would feel wrong to me. That doesn't mean that I don't care about the art and want it to be successful, and that's part of the reason that I'm partnering with Sister Cities next year to take this show to as many as 9 of Sarasota's sister cities around the world. And it's been an incredible partnership. I know at least half of you are from the Sister Cities organization. And it sort of, initially when I had the idea to try and do something with Sister Cities, it was sort of like an opportunity. And now it's really matured into something that's, I think, much more of a partnership. I think that we found that our philosophies have really meshed in terms of why doing something like this would be good. And for me, when I look at what Sister Cities' philosophy is, it's very much about citizen diplomacy, but also diplomacy ultimately for a higher purpose of peace in the world. It's for commerce, it's for education. But the original notion of why it was founded was that by having contacts between different nations or cultural and so forth, it would create peace. And part of my notion behind why I did the 9/11 photography is that by showing an accurate human portrait of what went on in 9/11, you create an empathy for people. With empathy, it's very hard to have violence against other people. Our history of violence is one of dehumanizing the people that we're violent against. So one of the things that's been very interesting to me over the years is how differently people's political views are who come to see the shows. So, we get people who are pacifists, we get people who think we should, go and invade countries, we get people who think that 9/11 was a government conspiracy or, some other kind of a conspiracy. But they all seem to connect in a very human way to the photos themselves. There seems to not be consensus about what the origins of 9/11 are, or even what necessarily is the most appropriate response, but there is a connection, there is agreement about what's happening here emotionally, and that what the nature of the human tragedy is, if that makes sense. And I should mention at this point that we're doing fundraising for getting the show on the road and into other countries. Because of the partnership, we're looking at possibly having as many as 9 different countries. We'd be very happy if we got it to 3 to 5. But if we got it into all 9, we're looking at a show that would cost well in excess of $100,000. But because of the partnership with Sister Cities, and because of the in-kind donations made by the cities that would host the event, we're actually only seeking to raise from our social media campaign, our crowdfunding campaign, $17,000. So for those who do choose to donate, it's going to be an amazing return on investment. And that's largely due to Sister Cities and their support for the project. Well, let's talk a little bit about the show itself. I'm going to go to the beginning of the slideshow. This is kind of random where it happened to stop. So as I said, I've done this in many cities now. And the way it happened was that I was in Boston, and I was watching the TV like everybody else in the country. And I was sort of glued to the TV, and I'm watching the news. And as I'm watching it, I'm getting more and more frustrated with what I'm seeing because it doesn't ring emotionally true to me. You know, I'm seeing all these panicked people on the screen sort of babbling at me, worried about what the next terrorist attack is going to be. You know, I like to compare the media coverage of 9/11 to the media coverage of the assassination. It was a very similar situation that all of the television shows were preempted by the news broadcast, and there was a very limited amount of actual real news that happened, you know, that was available to anybody. New news after the initial events happened. And one of the news channels in the Kennedy assassination, they basically put a news anchor in front of the camera and just had him sit there while they played classical music because they didn't have anything new to report. You know, the difference between that and what happened at 9/11, where they had nothing new to report, so what they did is they put on talking heads to essentially speculate endlessly about what might happen next, rather than actually presenting facts.